Against the backdrop of the vast Milky Way, humanity had always wondered if we were alone. Turns out we weren't, and our new alien friends were about to learn something fascinating about us that would leave them utterly baffled. It started on an ordinary Tuesday at the Interstellar Cultural Exchange Center in Geneva. The massive chrome and glass building had become Earth's unofficial meeting point with various alien species since first contact 3 years ago. Inside, Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's lead xenoanthropologist, was giving what she thought would be a routine presentation about human technological development to a delegation of Zoraxians, tall, elegant beings with iridescent skin who prided themselves on their advanced, peaceful civilization. "And this is how we progressed from the Stone Age to the Bronze Age," Sarah explained, gesturing at the holographic timeline floating behind her. The Zoraxian delegates nodded their elongated heads appreciatively, their crystalline eyes reflecting genuine interest in humanity's journey. But everything changed when one of the younger Zoraxian scholars, assistant researcher Vixtal, raised a delicate hand-like appendage. "Excuse me, Dr. Chen, but could you explain this particular item?" The hologram zoomed in on an ancient human tool, and Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She knew exactly where this was going. "Ah, yes," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "That would be what we call a sling. It's one of humanity's earliest projectile weapons." The atmosphere in the room shifted subtly as the Zoraxians processed this information. First Delegate Zornaum leaned forward, multiple eye facets widening. "You mean to tell us, your species took a piece of fabric, attached it to 2 strings, and used it to throw rocks at high velocity?" The translator struggled to convey the mix of horror and fascination in their voice. Sarah nodded, suppressing a smile. "Actually, some of our people still use them today for sport, but that's just the beginning of how humans learn to use seemingly simple items as tools and weapons." She paused, watching their reactions carefully. "Would you like to see more examples?" The Zoraxian delegation huddled together, their skin shifting through various shades of blue and green, a sign of intense emotional discussion in their species. When they turned back, their expressions were a mixture of curiosity and unease. "Please continue," Zornaum said, their voice carrying a new note of respect, and perhaps a touch of concern. "We find ourselves unexpectedly intrigued by your species' innovative approach to utilizing everyday materials." As Sarah pulled up the next set of images, she couldn't help but think about how this moment perfectly captured the essence of humanity. While other species had evolved sophisticated natural defenses or focused on developing energy-based weapons, humans had spent millennia looking at ordinary objects and thinking, "I bet I could use this to solve a problem." Or sometimes, "I bet I could throw this really hard at something." The room grew quieter as she prepared to reveal the next innovation, one that had changed the course of human history. The Zoraxians leaned forward in their seats, their skin now pulsing with anticipation colors. Sarah's finger hovered over the hologram controls, knowing that what she was about to show them would challenge everything they thought they knew about human ingenuity. Little did she know, this presentation would not only reshape the Zoraxians' understanding of humanity, but would also spark a galaxy-wide discussion about the remarkable species that could look at the simplest objects and see possibilities that no other civilization had ever imagined. And they hadn't even gotten to the part about boomerangs yet. Sarah pulled up the next hologram, revealing a curved piece of wood that seemed deceptively simple. "This," she said with a hint of pride, "is a boomerang." The Zoraxian's skin rippled with confusion colors, their crystalline eyes focusing intently on the image. "It appears to be a bent stick," Vixtal observed, their translator struggling to maintain the proper tone of diplomatic respect. The younger Zoraxian wasn't wrong. At first glance, that's exactly what it looked like. "Ah, but this bent stick is actually an ingenious aerodynamic device," Sarah explained, activating a simulation. The hologram showed the boomerang in flight, spinning through the air in its characteristic arc. When thrown correctly, it actually returns to the thrower. The entire delegation's skin shifted to a deep purple, their equivalent of shocked disbelief. First Delegate Zornaum's voice trembled slightly as they spoke. "Your species took a piece of wood, shaped it just so, and created a projectile that defies the basic laws of trajectories. For what purpose? Initially for hunting, Sarah replied, but like many human innovations, we eventually turned it into a sport. She couldn't help but grin as she added, we tend to do that a lot, take something designed for survival and turn it into entertainment. The Zoraxian's skin now displayed patterns that Sarah had never seen before, complex swirls of gold and silver that her xenocultural database couldn't interpret. She made a mental note to update the records later. Dr. Chen, Zornam said slowly, we are beginning to understand why your species has achieved so much in such a relatively short time. But we must ask, what else did your people transform into tools and weapons? Sarah's smile widened as she pulled up the next series of holograms. Well, there's this thing called Atlatl, essentially a stick used to throw other sticks really, really far. And then there's the blow dart, which basically turns a hollow reed into a precision weapon using nothing but lung power. The Zoraxian delegates were now barely maintaining their composed demeanor. Assistant researcher Vixtal had pulled out their equivalent of a data pad and was frantically recording notes, their skin flickering between amazement and concerned colors. But perhaps one of our most interesting early innovations, Sarah continued, was something that started as a musical instrument before someone looked at it and thought. She paused, building anticipation as she prepared to show them the next hologram. Suddenly, an alert chimed through the presentation hall. Pardon the interruption, a synthetic voice announced, but the Galactic Council representatives have arrived ahead of schedule and request immediate audience with the Zoraxian delegation. Sarah noticed the Zoraxian's skin shift to disappointment colors, matching her own feelings about the interruption. First Delegate Zornam rose, their iridescent robes shimming in the presentation room's light. Dr. Chen, they said formally, we find ourselves both fascinated and, if we're being completely honest, mildly terrified by what we've learned so far. Would it be possible to continue this presentation at a later time? We feel it is crucial to our understanding of human nature. There was something in their tone that made Sarah wonder if the Galactic Council's early arrival wasn't entirely coincidental. She had heard rumors about certain species becoming concerned about humanity's rapid advancement and innovative thinking. Perhaps this presentation was having more of an impact than she'd anticipated. As the Zoraxian delegation prepared to leave, she caught Vixtal glancing back at the hologram controls, their skin showing clear signs of burning curiosity about what she had been about to reveal next. 3 days later, Sarah found herself in a much different setting, the grand chamber of the Galactic Council itself. The massive amphitheater, carved from a single asteroid and lined with crystalline viewing panels showing the swirling cosmos beyond, hosted representatives from over 200 spacefaring civilizations. She hadn't expected her routine cultural presentation to escalate to this level, but here she was, standing before the council while holographic displays of her previous presentation floated behind her. The Zoraxian delegation sat in their designated section, their skin cycling through nervous color patterns. Dr. Sarah Chen, the council speaker, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate mechanical frame, addressed her. We have reviewed the information you shared about human innovation, particularly regarding your species' ability to repropose simple objects into tools of considerable impact. This has raised some concerns. Sarah straightened her back, feeling the weight of thousands of alien eyes upon her. With all due respect, Speaker, humans have always been innovators. We look at the world around us and see possibilities. It's not just about weapons. It's about survival, adaptation, and progress. A murmur rippled through the chamber as various species communicated in their native languages. The speaker's energy form flickered thoughtfully. Yet it is this very creativity that concerns some council members. You took a curved piece of wood and made it return through the air. You transformed plant fibers into devices that could launch projectiles with deadly accuracy. And we also used those same skills to create music, art, and tools that built civilizations. Sarah countered, her voice firm. The same minds that thought I could throw this also thought I could plant this, and I could build with this. The chamber grew quiet as she activated the next hologram. the one she hadn't gotten to show the Zoraxians. It was a simple stringed bow, but not the kind used for hunting. "This," she said, her voice carrying through the silent chamber, "is what I was about to show your delegation, First Delegate Zor Nam. Would you like to guess what humans did with this particular arrangement of wood and string?" The Zoraxians' skin shifted to anticipation colors, while other species leaned forward in their seats. Even the speaker's energy form seemed to pulse with curiosity. "You see," Sarah continued, her finger hovering over the control to activate the next part of the presentation, "humans looked at this weapon and thought of something completely different. Something that would change our culture forever. Something that demonstrates exactly why humanity's creativity shouldn't be feared, but celebrated." The tension in the chamber was palpable. Representatives from various species were displaying their versions of intense interest, some through color changes, others through pheromone releases, and still others through subtle gravitational fluctuations. Just as Sarah was about to reveal the transformation of the bow that had so profoundly impacted human civilization, a warning klaxon blared through the chamber. Emergency lights began pulsing, and the speaker's energy form flared brightly. "Security breach in sectors 7 through 12. An automated voice announced. "Unknown technology detected. All council members, please remain calm." And Sarah's eyes widened as she realized what was happening. Someone, somewhere in this vast chamber, had just demonstrated exactly the kind of human innovation she had been trying to explain, and they had done it in the heart of the Galactic Council itself. Through the chaos of flashing lights and blaring alarms, Sarah noticed something peculiar, a faint, melodic sound cutting through the cacophony. It was coming from somewhere in the upper galleries of the chamber, growing steadily louder. Several alien species with enhanced auditory senses were already turning their attention toward it, their expressions showing a mix of confusion and wonder. That's impossible," First Delegate Zor Nam exclaimed, their skin shifting to a frequency Sarah had never seen before, a brilliant gold with undertones of azure that seemed to pulse in time with the mysterious music. Sarah's mind raced as she pieced together what was happening. "No," she said, a smile spreading across her face. "That's exactly what I was about to show you." She quickly manipulated the hologram controls, bringing up the full image she'd been about to reveal, a bow transformed into a musical instrument, one of humanity's earliest string instruments. The speaker's energy form fluctuated rapidly. "You mean to tell us someone has brought one of your weaponized tools into the council chamber?" Their mechanical frame hummed with concern. "Not a weapon," Sarah corrected, raising her voice to be heard over the continuing alarms. "A violin. Someone brought music to your security crisis." As if on cue, the melody became clearer, a haunting rendition of an ancient Earth composition that seemed to resonate with the very structure of the asteroid chamber. The effect on the assembled species was remarkable. The Zoraxian's skin had synchronized into a harmonious pattern of colors that flowed with the music. The gaseous species in the upper tiers had begun to swirl in rhythm. Even the speaker's energy form pulsed in time with the notes. "This," Sarah continued, seizing the moment, "is what I've been trying to explain about humanity. Yes, we can look at a curved piece of wood and string and see a weapon, but we can also look at that same combination and create something that touches souls across the galaxy." Suddenly, the music changed, becoming more complex, more layered. A second instrument had joined in, then a third. Sarah recognized the additions. A flute fashioned from a hollow reed, like the blow dart she'd mentioned earlier, and percussion created from stretched animal hide and carved wood, tools that could have been weapons, transformed into rhythm. The security alarms were still blaring, but now they seemed almost comedic against the impromptu concert taking place in the Galactic Council chamber. Several human delegates in the upper galleries had produced their own instruments, joining in a spontaneous demonstration of humanity's creative spirit. But just as the music reached a crescendo, Sarah noticed something that made her blood run cold. The crystalline viewing panels showing the cosmos beyond the chamber had begun to vibrate in resonance with the music. Tiny fracture patterns were spreading across their surface, beautiful but potentially catastrophic if they shattered. The speaker noticed it too, their energy form flaring with alarm. Dr. Chen, they said urgently, your species has done something remarkable here today. But if those panels breach, Sarah's mind raced. Once again, human innovation had created something beautiful and potentially dangerous. But if there was one thing she knew about her species, it was their ability to find solutions in the most unexpected places. She looked at the trembling crystal panels, then back at her hologram controls showing various human innovations throughout history. There, in the database, was something that might just save them all, if only she could convince the council to trust human ingenuity one more time. Sarah's fingers flew across the hologram controls, pulling up an ancient human technology that had fascinated her since childhood. Speaker, she called out urgently, those crystal panels. What are they made of? Compressed silicate matrix, the speaker's energy form pulsed with concern. Similar to what you would call glass, but far more advanced. The fracture patterns were spreading faster now, dancing in time with the music that still filled the chamber. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Then I know exactly how to save them. She projected her next hologram. A simple human invention that had changed architecture forever. We need sand, lots of it, and intense heat. The speaker's mechanical frame tilted in confusion. You want to make more panels. There isn't time. No, Sarah explained, her voice steady despite the crisis. We're going to strengthen them. Humans discovered this technique thousands of years ago. It's called tempering. The same principle that helped us make stronger weapons and tools can save your panels. The Zoraxian delegation's skin had shifted to understanding colors. First Delegate Zornam stood up. The human speaks truth. Our research shows their species discovered that rapidly heating and cooling glass makes it significantly stronger. The music had stopped now, but the damage was done. The panels continued to vibrate dangerously. The speaker's energy form flickered rapidly as they processed this information. But how can we possibly? Sarah cut them off. The same way humans have solved problems for millennia, by using what we have. Those energy conduits running through the chamber walls. They can provide the heat and the vacuum of space right beyond those panels, perfect for rapid cooling. The chamber erupted in a flurry of activity. Under Sarah's guidance, the council's engineers redirected energy flows, creating a controlled heat wave that enveloped the crystalline panels. The timing had to be perfect. Too much heat would shatter them. Too little wouldn't trigger the tempering process. As the panels began to glow with an inner light, Sarah gave the signal. The engineers cut the power, allowing the cold of space to shock the crystal matrix. For a terrifying moment, everything hung in balance. Then, slowly, the fracture patterns began to fade. The panels didn't just survive. They emerged stronger, with an iridescent quality that made them shimmer like the Zoraxian's skin. The chamber erupted in what each species considered applause. The speaker's energy form blazed brightly. Dr. Chen, your species has demonstrated something remarkable today. You took a potential disaster and turned it into an improvement. The panels are now 40% stronger than their original design. Sarah nodded, but her attention was drawn to something else. The musicians in the gallery had begun playing again, softer this time. The newly tempered panels didn't vibrate dangerously anymore. Instead, they seemed to capture the sound, amplifying it in a way that filled the chamber with harmonics no one had ever heard before. Speaker, she said, fighting to keep her voice professional despite her excitement. I believe we just accidentally invented the galaxy's largest musical instrument. The energy beings form pulse with what could only be described as laughter. Perhaps, Dr. Chen, this is why some council members were concerned about humanity. You don't just solve problems. You find entirely new possibilities in the solutions. First Delegate Zornam stepped forward, their skin shimmering with revelation colors. I believe we need to reconsider our earlier concerns about human innovation. After all, they gestured to the now glowing panels. They just turned our security crisis into an architectural improvement and a music hall. As the chamber filled with the hauntingly beautiful combination of human music and crystalline resonance, Sarah noticed something in her hologram display that made her heart skip a beat. The tempering process had done more than strengthen the panels. It had changed their molecular structure in a way that her sensors couldn't quite explain. But that would be a discovery for another day. In the days following what became known as the Harmonic Incident, the Galactic Council Chamber saw more visitors than it had in centuries. Species from across the galaxy came to witness the transformed panels, which now responded to sound in ways that defied conventional physics. The chamber had become both a testament to human ingenuity and an interstellar tourist attraction. Sarah found herself giving a very different presentation than the one she'd originally planned. Standing before a new group of alien diplomats, she gestured to the shimmering panels above. "What you're seeing isn't just reinforced crystal," she explained. "It's a perfect example of how humans approach problems. We don't just fix things, we transform them." The Zoraxian delegation had become her strongest supporters. First Delegate Zor Nam, their skin now permanently carrying traces of the golden revelation colors from that day, often joined her presentations to add their own observations. When we first came to learn about human innovation, Zor Nam told the assembled diplomats, "We were concerned about their ability to turn simple objects into tools and weapons. What we failed to understand was that same creativity could turn potential disasters into discoveries." The Council had officially revised its stance on human innovation. The speaker, whose energy form now resonated pleasantly with the chamber's harmonics, made a formal declaration. The human capacity for adaptive thinking is not a threat to galactic peace, but rather a resource for solving problems we never knew we had. The musicians who had inadvertently triggered the crisis were not punished. Instead, they were commissioned to explore the new acoustic properties of the chamber. Their weekly concerts drew audiences from across the galaxy, each species experiencing the music differently through their unique sensory adaptations. As Sarah packed up her presentation materials one evening, she noticed Vixtal, the young Zoraxian researcher, studying the molecular readings from the transformed panels. "Still trying to figure out exactly what happened during the tempering process?" she asked. Vixtal's skin flickered with excitement colors. "The changes shouldn't have been possible according to our understanding of physics. It's as if," they paused, searching for the right words, "as if the human music somehow influenced the molecular restructuring." Sarah smiled, remembering that unexplained reading she'd noticed right after the crisis. Maybe that's the best lesson humanity can offer the galaxy. Sometimes the most remarkable discoveries happen not because we were looking for them, but because we were willing to try something that seemed impossible. As if to emphasize her point, the evening's concert began above them. The panels caught the first notes of an Earth classical piece, transforming them into something entirely new, a symphony of light and sound that seemed to dance through the very fabric of space-time. "You know," Sarah said, watching the display, "humans have a saying, 'Necessity is the mother of invention,' but I think we've proven it's more than that. Sometimes invention comes from curiosity, sometimes from accident, and sometimes, Vixtal finished, their skin glowing with understanding, it comes from seeing the extraordinary potential in ordinary things." As they stood there, watching the panels transform music into visible waves of light and color, Sarah couldn't help but wonder what other discoveries were waiting to be made, not just by humans, but by all species working together, learning to see the universe through each other's eyes. After all, if a simple bow could become both a weapon and a musical instrument, if a security crisis could birth a new form of architecture, who knew what other wonders might be waiting to be discovered by those willing to look at the ordinary and imagine something extraordinary? The music swelled to a finale, and the panels blazed with impossible colors, reminding everyone present that in the vast expanse of space, innovation wasn't just about survival, it was about transforming the universe, one simple idea at a time.